What's up, Crown community? Welcome to another amazing episode here on Crown Gambit. My name is Efren, and today we're actually going to be doing our first retro movie review, which is going to be on Star Wars Episode 1. Now, before we get started, I want to go ahead and give a special shout outs to Jason Beltran and to Invincible for having to be Patreon members. For those that have not had a chance to check it out, we have the link below. Let's get started, shall we? Directed and written by George Lucas, as we all know. It was produced by Lucasfilm. This film was actually released on May 16, 1999. So I was about 9 years old when this film actually came out. This was actually the fourth film and the first chronological chapter of the Skywalker saga. Pretty much took place about 32 years before the original trilogy, during the era of the Galactic Republic, I apologize. This budget for this film was actually $115 million. I'm not sure if they ever thought that they were going to be making so much money, because this film actually made over $1 billion. Just knowing the fact that you make so much money gets to show how good of a film this was. The actors, as we all know, we had Liam Neeson, who plays as Qui-Gon, Ewan McGregor, who plays as Obi-Wan Kenobi. We have Natalie Portman, plays as Queen Amidala, Jake Lloyd, who plays as Anakin Skywalker, Ian McDiarmid, who plays as Senator Palpatine, Ahmad Best, who plays as Jar Jar Binks, Frank Oz, who does the voice of Master Yoda, and we have Samuel Jackson, who plays as Master Windu. And let's not forget Ray Park, who plays as Darth Maul. He's actually one of my favorite characters besides Boba Fett. Those two are like far by my favorite characters in the whole Star Wars trilogy, or the whole Star Wars saga completely. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started on this. We know we have a lot to talk about. We want to go ahead and go over the review, what we think of, a little bit more of like the film itself. This was an incredible film. Just having to watch Anakin Skywalker as a child and not knowing where his faith was going to lead into. Literally, that's like the start of the whole Star Wars. It's crazy how they started with chapter 4 and like they mixed them all up, which to me at the first time when I was watching the films, it kind of was confusing. But once a lot more films started coming out, you kind of start seeing them in order and you kind of start putting the puzzle together. Also watching Clone Wars, watching all sorts of the other series, kind of get to see where the timeline runs for the Star Wars saga. This film was incredible, just watching Anakin grow up and seeing the role that he plays, when leading from being Darth Vader to being the father of Luke Skywalker, and then changing his ways. Like, Qui-Gon was not wrong about it. Anakin was supposed to be the chosen one, the one to bring peace or balance between the Force. As we all know, it starts out with the Trade Federation led by Newt Gunray, who are the Neimoidians. I assume that I said that correctly. Planning to take over the planet Naboo. The order was to kill the Jedis.
I have a bad feeling about this.
And to capture Queen Amidala. Senator Palpatine was the one who made that order, made that call. You guys know Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon were sent out to talk to the leaders so they can come to an agreement. So that way they could stop this whole war, everything that was going on. But they wanted to go ahead and take over anyways. So they tried to kill Obi and try to kill Qui-Gon as well. But they were able to escape once they were from that ship. They landed in Naboo. And that's where Qui-Gon saved Jar Jar Binks. Qui-Gon ends up saving Jar Jar Binks, and Jar Jar Binks ends up having to help Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon by having to go underwater. He comes from a city called Gunga City, which is a hidden city located beneath the waters of Lake Paunga. Qui-Gon goes to the city, asks for Boss Nass to give him like an underwater spaceship, or like submarine in a way, so that way they can get to the city, save Queen Amidala. And it's incredible because as you're watching the film, you get to see so many huge fishes. One of them was the big gobberfish. As he was chasing Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi to eat them, there's a bigger fish who ends up having to kill the big gobberfish. And I like what Qui-Gon said. He's like,
"There's always a bigger fish."
That was a pretty cool quote for Qui-Gon to say. The droids were able to take over the planet. After they had saved Queen Amidala, they took off They were out there trying to escape to get to Coruscant. As they were heading out there, they got attacked by the boarders. They lost their defense shield, which R2-D2 came and saved them by having to activate and power up the shield generator.
Shield generator's been hit!
However, they weren't able to restore the hyperdrive. So they had to land to a closest planet that was not ruled by the Federation trade. That's where they end up having to go to Tatooine, which is actually ruled by the Hutts. Right when they land there, Qui-Gon goes out to go get the part. That's how he meets Anakin. Right off the bat, he knew like the Force is strong with him. So he kind of was very interested in Anakin from the beginning. Anakin's mother was sold to Gardula the Hutt and ended up with the Tydorians. They aren't affected by the Jedi mind tricks, which is funny because Qui-Gon was trying to use his Jedi mind trick, and the Toydarian was like, what are you trying to do? Jedi mind tricks don't work on us.
Only money.
You either pay up or get the hell out of here. And he tried to pay in, was it the public credits or something like that? And he's like, man, your credits are no good here. Qui-Gon had to do it the right way, which was having to try to earn money to try to pay for this, which he ends up making a bet with a Toydarian and says, hey, you know what? He actually believed in Anakin that he can win the actual race. So he ends up having to say, hey, you know what, the pod race, let's go ahead and make a bet. If I win, you're going to give me the part and you're going to give me the boy. Because he wanted to train Anakin Skywalker, or at least take him to the Jedi councils, let them know, hey, this guy is the chosen one. He's the one that's going to be bringing peace to the Force, having to watch Anakin enter this pod race and having to win. So that's where they were able to get the part, the item for the J-Type 377 that was able to use the hyperdrive to be able to get to planet Coruscant. As they actually approach to Coruscant, Queen Amidala realizes like the Republic and the Trade Federation, they both have different ideas, but those ideas were leading to not care about the people, more of like who was ruling. And that's why Queen Amidala said, you know what, forget it, I'm just gonna go back to my planet and just handle it myself. After they take off back to the planet, to Naboo, she ends up having to just seek Boss Nass help and says, hey, you know what, like, we might not be able to say, hey, let's work together, but at the end of the day, they take us down, they're gonna come after you guys as well, because they're gonna want to take over the whole planet. For Boss Nass, he was like, you know what, maybe you're right, we should work together and take out the droids. That's how they end up joining forces. Even Darth Maul, when he first came into, you kind of see Qui-Gon. That was the first encounter with him. He was just kind of like tripping out, like, oh shit, who's he? Like, he looks like a very strong individual. During the council, the Jedi Council, Master Yoda was the one who said, hey man, so if there was one, more than likely there's another one. So they were trying to figure out who Darth Maul was. Was he the apprentice or was he the master? Which later on they find out that he was just the apprentice. The Sith Lord was, obviously Palpatine. Senator Palpatine, the little sneaky rat, ends up having to take over and becomes the Chancellor. And he's just gaining off of every situation. Qui-Gon ends up having to take in Anakin and really become a teacher. As Qui-Gon was dying, that one request he asked for Obi-Wan Kenobi was, please take him in, train him, let him walk the path of the Jedi. He's gonna bring balance to the Force and to the universe. He ends up becoming that. Also being the father of Luke Skywalker, who ends up really becoming the chosen one. This film has a lot. It has some sad moments when Anakin was leaving his mother, when she still stayed as a slave, and he ends up having to take off to become a Jedi. It's also watching Qui-Gon brought me to tears. To me, he was one of the best mentors for Obi-Wan Kenobi and would have been a great mentor for Anakin. And I can relate to that because I have some mentors as well who teach me to become a better person. That's kind of like when I relate to that. It's sad to see how Obi-Wan Kenobi lost a very special person to him. He was more like a father to him because he trained him and really took care of him. And Qui-Gon believed in Obi-Wan Kenobi so much that he said, hey, you're ready to be on your own. You don't need me anymore. There's nothing more I can teach you. You already learned everything that there is. It's just all about you now. I'm glad that Obi-Wan Kenobi took Qui-Gon's request and really took care of Anakin and watched Anakin grow up. Even though Anakin had hate in his heart, Master Windu and Master Yoda at first said no, he's not going to join the path of the Jedi's because there's darkness dwelling in him that he's not letting go. And later on, he unleashes that hate. having to unleash the hate brings balance to the dark and light. All of that's explained in Clone Wars. I forgot what season it was, where Anakin goes to the Force and he sees the light and the dark, and you guys gotta watch all that. It's incredible. I really enjoyed this film. I'm looking forward to doing other reviews, retro reviews. I know Aubrey Freely's going to be doing the second on chapter 2, so look out for that. Just want to thank each and every single one of you for sticking around. If you guys enjoyed this, hit the thumbs up. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. Also, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, share with your friends and family. We look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. So stick around, stay updated, click those notification buttons, the little bell button, so every time we post up a new video, you guys are always one of the first to see. Also, if you guys are Patreon members, you guys actually get first access to the episodes, or of all of the. So now that we actually talked about the actual film itself, let's go ahead and give my opinion, my rating on it. Compared to, let's say, the visual and the sound effects, let's say back from the originals compared to the prequels and the sequels. Now we're talking about 42 years of cutting edge technology that's been revolutionized through time. I mean, when you start thinking about Star Wars Episode 4, came out around May 25, 1977. I mean, back then in the 70s, you actually have technology which started out with the CGI and the chroma keys. Through time, you can kind of see how everything changed from having to zoom in and have these little characters or have these little pictures or these little per se toys, and being able to focus on it with the CGI and create this image, compared to the prequels where everything is much easier. You gotta think about it. You're looking back at 1977, back with Episode 4, Episode 5 in 1980. Then you also have Episode 6 in 1983. Those times were a little bit harder to be able to create those kind of image, but Lucasfilm was able to do that, making it much easier in the next years with the prequels, with Episode 1, 2, and 3, which came out from 1999, 2002, and 2005. Now you're talking about a good amount, 20 years expand of technology that's evolved. You also have Episode 7, 8, and 9, which came out around 2015, around 2017, 2019, which you can kind of see how everything's revolutionized. And to me, it makes it much easier for them to be able to create all these imageries. The sound effect was amazing back then. Prequels were much better. However, Episode 4 and 5 and 6, for their times, it was actually very well done. As far as my understanding, Star Wars was one of the first original ones to put everything together and work with a CGI. And now look at it, Hollywood depends on CGI and chroma keys to be able to create these images, create these sound effects, create these visual effects. All hands down, looking through these 42 years of technology evolving gets to show you how quickly technology evolves. I can't imagine what these next few Star Wars are going to be bringing in. I mean, they're talking about Star Wars X, which is supposedly going to be released anytime from 2022 to 2026. Not too sure if it's really going to come out, but 4-year expand, wow, just for the next episode. But I feel like Disney Plus is going to be evolving or changing the Star Wars saga and changing the trilogies and changing everything. I'm looking forward to all the new Book of Boba Fett, Mando, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka Tano. Like, everything's going to be evolving through the times, and having to grow up and see those changes, sound effects, the visual effects, compare from the originals, the prequels, and the sequels. So let me know what your thoughts are on the sound effect, on the visual effects, on all special effects that were created from back then to now. As far as my favorite character in the film, I gotta say, it's like yin and yang. It's Qui-Gon, and it's also Darth Maul. I like the way Darth Maul looks. He has that Darth Sith look. Realistically, having to look into Darth Maul's story, the only person he actually really had some type of emotional connection was with his brother Savage. Other than that, he never had a deep connection, unless if it was with the Dark Sith that was training him and he felt betrayed, that he was no longer needed. So that kind of like blew out the window for him to really have some type of connection. But Savage, as you watch in Clone Wars, they do have a dispute where they end up fighting each other. But you also see some sympathy from Darth Maul. In reality, Darth Maul will be able to take out Savage. Even though Savage was trained by Darkseid himself, compared to Darth Maul, having to watch Savage fight, like, you kind of see that Darth Maul is a little bit stronger because he actually really knows the Force very well compared to Savage. And Obi-Wan Kenobi ends up having to be the one to slice up Darth Maul in half. And it's crazy because he actually doesn't even die. And we later find out later on in time that he ends up coming back. Later in the future, who's the one who takes him out? Of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Qui-Gon was far by the best character. There's always going to be a bigger fish. I like how Qui-Gon is the type of person to believe in people. He believes in his heart and what is right and what he thinks is right. Compared to like the Jedi Council that did not want to take in Anakin because they knew that he had heart or hatred in his heart, he still had hope. If it wasn't for Qui-Gon, there wouldn't be no Anakin. The story would have been completely different. It's amazing to see how he entrusted a little boy that he believed is the one who's going to bring balance to the Force, bring balance to the galaxies. He believed in Obi-Wan Kenobi well enough to say, hey, you're ready to move on. I've taught you everything I can. Now it's really up to you to push forward and keep moving forward. And he believed in him well enough to entrust Anakin to Obi-Wan Kenobi, train him and put him under his wing, just like Qui-Gon did with Obi-Wan. That to me is very special. I myself have a couple of mentors that took me in who had no reason to take me in. They had no reason to even have someone like myself to be able to teach me and have the patience for me. And I can relate to that. Having to have a mentor or a teacher or someone that can put you and guide you to become a better person or become a better individual. It takes a lot. That's someone who actually cares about you. And not that many people really have the patience for other individuals like that. To me, Qui-Gon was the best character as far as throughout the whole episode. Him and Darth Maul. And that brings up to my next topic, which would be my favorite scene. The fight between Qui-Gon and Obi, against the Jedis against Darth Maul. That was intense. It takes a lot of training to be able to do that. I mean, they were moving in so smooth. You can see the difference between the characters of Darth Maul, who was just standing and anxious to try to get him, and then you have Qui-Gon, who was patiently meditating and waiting. And Obi-Wan, the way that he saw his mentor, more like a father to him, get stricken down by Darth Maul, he was able to connect his anger and use that. Almost caused Obi-Wan Kenobi because he was blinded with anger. At the end, when he was about to fall to his death, he kind of brought himself back together and thought, I don't have my lightsaber, what am I going to do? He then thought about the lightsaber that his mentor had. So he was able to connect with that. And here you have Darth Maul, who was overly confident, but he did not see that coming. And that's what caused Darth Maul to lose against Obi-Wan. Now, we all know that Darth Maul did not die in that scene. It was still cool and amazing to see that. That was my favorite scene also. I like the pod race. Anakin ends up having to enter the pod race, and even though he was cheated by Shaboba, which is a Dug, which is an alien species, a little tiny thing who try to cheat, he ends up still losing to Anakin. He didn't give up, even though he was last from the beginning. He caught up and took first place and won the whole race. The confidence you have in winning and not letting anything or anybody stop you from achieving that. Now, those two scenes had me gripping onto my chair, almost made me want to jump. Let me know what your thoughts are, who your favorite character was, what your favorite scene was, what you guys think about the whole special effects compared from the originals and the prequels and the sequels and compared to now. Stick around because I'm going to be talking a lot about the next episode. Let's go ahead and wrap this up, shall we? Make sure you guys hit that little bell notification and we'll catch you next time.